As the former Deputy Chief Negotiator for the US-Singapore FTA, Mr. Ong Ye Kung said he felt duty-bound to correct the falsehoods surrounding CECA and FTAs, pointing to an online post last month where PSP non-constituency MP Leong Man Wai claimed foreign PMETs and FTAs have affected the jobs and livelihoods of Singaporeans.
In his social media post on 22nd June this year, Mr. Leong Man Wai again said, and I quote, "The most important economic policies that have affected the jobs and livelihoods of Singaporeans relate to foreign PMEs and free trade agreements, in particular CECA." Unquote. Mr. Speaker, these statements are false. They have been repeated for too long. I am a former trade negotiator at MTI when I was a civil servant. We worked closely on several FTAs. I worked with a very dedicated team who has over 2 decades fought hard for the interests of Singapore to expand our economic and political space for our small island state. And I feel I owe a duty to correct the falsehoods. Indeed, Singaporean PMEs, like PMEs in other advanced economies, are facing challenges. Many have given us their feedback, and the government has been taking steps to address their concerns. But our FTAs in general, and CECA in particular, are not the causes of the challenges our PMEs face. If anything, they are part of the solution. FTAs and CECA have been made political scapegoats to discredit the policy of the PAP government.
Mr. Ong went on to say that it is in Singapore's interest to pursue FTAs. Singapore has built a network of 26 FTAs with key economic partners, including the US, the EU, ASEAN, China and India.
Our total trade is 3 times our GDP. Since 2005, our total trade has nearly doubled from around 890 billion Sing dollars to now 1.5 trillion Sing dollars. And today, when EDB goes out and persuades investors to come to Singapore, our network of FTAs is always a major selling point. FTAs are especially important to our SMEs. They free them from being constrained by our small domestic market and give them access to global markets. So our SMEs are sending all kinds of Singapore-made products overseas, from canned food, barbecued pork, frozen roti prata. I heard some are exported to India, to medical devices, machines, components, chemicals. FTAs are also spurring our companies to venture abroad. Our investments overseas increased nearly 5 times, from 200 billion Sing dollars 2005 to over 930 billion Sing dollars 2019. So when our companies grow overseas, they become stronger, and they also employ more Singaporeans here. If we accept this basic reality, that Singapore needs the world to earn a living, then we would realize the fundamental importance of all our FTAs. They are a keystone of the economic superstructure that we have built. We could not have advanced the welfare of Singaporeans to the degree that we have without FTAs. We cannot take all this for granted.
Mr. Ong also listed key disciplines of an FTA. For CECA specifically, he said it reduces tariff barriers, which made Singapore goods more competitive in the Indian market. And partly because of that, bilateral trade between both countries grew by over 80% between 2005 and 2019. Mr. Ong, though, noted that despite significant benefits, FTAs are controversial in many countries.
As a trade negotiator, I've listened to the problems and sensitivities of many of our FTA partners. What are these sensitivities? Some countries wish to protect certain sectors, such as agriculture. That's a very common one. which Singapore does not do. We have some eggs, we have some fish, but more for a bit of source diversification. We never seek to conquer the world with our eggs and our sea buses. Others could not live up to, say, the transparency standards of, say, government procurement or intellectual property disciplines. Still others are concerned about the influences of foreign culture through industries such as arts and entertainment. Canada, for example, very sensitive about this area. So the toughest job and the most time-consuming job of a negotiator is to identify and understand the sensitivities of your country, and then find ways to protect or to address them. How do we do so? We find words that give you comfort, that address the sensitivity. And we call these words, in our jargon, exceptions or carve-outs. When we have a big carve-out with strong protection in our sensitive areas, we will say this carve-out is strong and big enough for a jumbo jet to fly through. In some sensitive areas, it is easy to negotiate exceptions or carve-outs because everyone agrees. One example is right of taxation by governments. Another one is national security. A third one is immigration. Every country holds the view that there cannot be unfettered movement of people across borders. Every FTA partner believes that. That would create social unrest and a big public uproar. Governments must retain the ability to impose immigration and border controls, and FTAs cannot undermine that. Hence, in all FTAs and also WTO agreements, you will find that immigration powers are strongly and prominently preserved and protected. You can find such standard clauses in the WTO agreement as well as in all our FTAs, including CICA.